Alright, the Reds, it is Talking Reds, and joining me today on Talking Reds, I've got Hughes from The Athletic, journalist and author, sometime contributor to the Anfield app as well. Get on size books generally as well, I'd probably say that right at the top, in that I genuinely love size books, we all do at the Anfield app. Hasn't just written about footy as well, has written about all kinds, social history, footy lower down the leagues. In general, he puts some effort into them books, so reward that effort by reading them. You've got some time on your hands, haven't you, before the footy comes back? Anyway, okay, so Si, well, let's say first of all, The Athletic and everything. How's it all going with that, and what are you working on at the moment, mate?
Yeah, well, it's just saying before, it's been busy. I think the general perception is, what do you do when there's no matches being played? But I mean, to be honest, my role has changed quite a lot in the last 12 months since joining The Athletic. It's not quite as match specific as it was in the past. They really want you sort of doing the stories that sometimes get missed because of the treadmill of matches. So in terms of the flow of work, it's arguably been more intense than it normally would be. And so it's the way that I look at it is obviously in the summer we would have had a 2 month, 6 to 8 week period where sort of scratching around for stories after the Euros have finished anyway. That's sort of filled that gap now with, I guess, the quest to get the Premier League back up and running again, and the story behind that. So that's been pretty busy. I mean, I'd worked on a load of stuff, before lockdown about Liverpool and how around the theme of winning the title. So I'm revisiting some of those articles which had obviously been parked for a while. So I'm just working on a couple of them this week to try and hopefully get up to speed and get some fresher content, so that can go out as and when hopefully Liverpool clinch the title, which could be soon.
Yeah, and I know that obviously on the podcast you do yourselves on The Athletic about Liverpool. You obviously talked about Timo Werner. We talked about Timo Werner at length yesterday on the Anfield app. I don't want to do all that again, because I kind of feel like we've all done that to an extent. There is a small thing out there today which I'm not sure massively takes it on. It's just Jan Ager Fjorthoff saying that he sort of heard from someone at the club that the owners have said we don't want to spend any money in what he's termed the Corona transfer window. I mean, I've not listened to your podcast side, but I was obviously part of our one. I mean, what's your general vibe on it briefly?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. I mean, it's obviously Liverpool were very keen to sign him. Jürgen Klopp had spoken with him. I was informed that he met him, clearly, you were on the same page, really. I mean, I think that the initial concern around him was would he deal with sort of not going into the team straight away and having to wait for his chance a little bit more. But I think he'd reassured Jürgen Klopp that that was fine. Obviously that was on the provision of the AFCON starting next year, which now that's all up in the air as well. So there was a chance Liverpool could be breaking the transfer record for a striker, on a player who, who's going to have to fight really hard to get into that team now. With everything that's going on, and with Liverpool anticipating the players that they might be selling as well. So you're considering Harry Wilson, Grich, Shaqiri, those sorts of players who you could make quite a lot of money. I mean, the sales for those players could pay for Timo Werner potentially. There's no guarantee that they're going to be able to get the sort of money that you'd normally expect for those players. So the market's obviously all over the place at the moment. There are clubs like Chelsea who are able to do a bit more, partly because of the deals they've already got organised, with Alvaro Morata going to Atletico Madrid, which is mainly paying for the deal for Werner. So it's going to be different, I think, for a lot of clubs. And I think Liverpool, the best way of putting it for Liverpool is it's a conservative decision based on the uncertainty, which from a financial perspective, I can understand. I mean, Liverpool have been run for a long time as a business, as we know. So they've got no incomings at the moment. They're not sure what the incomings are going to be like for next year in terms of transfers. So they do have to be careful. Yes, they made profits last year, and they're doing well financially. But football clubs are often run as close to the edge as they possibly can. So there's not a great deal of wiggle room. If one thing doesn't happen, it does have an effect on the rest of the club. And Liverpool's a different club in terms of the way it's run to Chelsea and Manchester City. It is. It's just because it's run by billionaire owners doesn't mean that it's run exactly the same business model. So personally, if you ask me what do I think, I think it's frustrating that Liverpool got to this point of, they really look like they're set up, don't they, to go and achieve not just success this season, but next season, the season after. It does concern me. Is this going to halt that progression? I understand that the team's still a very good team. It's not like in the past where Liverpool have missed out on signings, and the team's been further away from where it wants to be. But nevertheless, when you're at that point, there's always need for improvements and competition. And I just hope that they don't miss that opportunity. But as we said, there are some clubs who are able to still operate as close to normally as they would, whereas Liverpool aren't one of those clubs at the moment. The way it's run, and you can argue against that. You can say, well, that's not right, or I disagree with the owner's stance, but that is the economic reality of the environment the club is operating in. So they're not going to change that. Certainly not in an environment in a world where there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, it's obviously been bolted on side to sort of, the last summer when obviously Liverpool didn't particularly spend big. Obviously Van den Berg came in, we got Adrian on a free and that kind of stuff. But for me, the net spend argument is coming up again, and people are making league tables and writing pieces about that. I find it hard. I've got to be honest. I've called a shill yesterday for sort of saying I'm all right with it. But we're literally top of the league, 25 points clear, holding the European Cup, holding the World Club Cup. And also, I don't accept that Jürgen Klopp, Michael Edwards, et al. Are not having some influence on all this. You've seen Jürgen himself has been conservative in the past, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I remember speaking to James Pearce yesterday, and he reminded me, I'd totally forgotten about this. It was another one of those transfer sagas, I think so it would have been 2015-16. Alex Teixeira, Liverpool were going to go and spend a shitload of money on him. And they got involved in a bit of a tug of war. I know you like your football cliches with one of the Chinese clubs. And in the end, Klopp just said, look, he's not worth this amount of money. It was Klopp who put the breakers on it, even though there was the massive demand amongst the fan base to go and spend this money. I get the impression, listening to people around Klopp, that he clearly wants to sign the player, but he's perceptive enough to realise that this has been the environment he's worked in for. It's not like this has changed. The goalposts have changed in the last few weeks. He knows that in this circumstance, the owners are more likely to make this sort of decision. So it's not like they're not singing from the same hymn sheet. I'm sure, as a football manager, you always want to have better players, and deep down, he'd obviously sooner have him than let Chelsea have him. But the reality is we are where we are. The world's changed dramatically in the last couple of weeks, and he is, I think, quite, he understands sort of the global reality, doesn't he? We've given him praise in the past for understanding the way things are, not just in football but in society. He's not just going to park that, and go full Mourinho just because he's not going to get what he wants and he's going to have problems with the owners. It just doesn't work like that. And I think, I'm sure you discussed it before, but he is excited about the players coming up through the system at the moment. How close Ryan Brewster is, I'm not sure. He seems to me like I've seen him a little bit at Swansea, and it feels a bit like Tammy Abraham, a few years ago, where he goes on a few loans and then gets the real understanding of how the game's played at the highest level. Because he's not going to play ahead of the three. This is the thing, that the front three that they've got are incredible, aren't they? And okay, people might say, well, they might get injured, of course, but there isn't a history there to suggest that that's going to happen, because they are a robust front three. I understand the player can get a bad knee injury through just pure bad luck, and that could happen, but they're not the sort of players like, say, a Fernando Torres type player who is in the team and out the team because they're injured, So it's not that sort of situation. The conversation has moved on from what it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when Liverpool were making similar, unable to sort of add to the squad in the way that I suppose fans wanted them to. As I said, I would obviously like them to go and sign a player who can really make a difference. I think in the final third. But you look around what's going on at the moment. You can't second guess what the next sort of month's going to be like. Never mind 6 months' time. So in this circumstance, I can understand that thought process. That might not be popular. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it is popular side with some people, but it is what it is, as you say. Neil Atkinson did an exclusive 22-minute interview with Jürgen Klopp, which we've been pushing on the Anfield app lately. We've got a different clip from that interview coming up, so you can have a little look at that. If you fancy watching the whole thing, download the Anfield app. You get some free tokens on there, and you can access the premium content, which includes that interview with Jürgen Klopp. So here's a quick clip of the interview with Jürgen Klopp.
From when they get that one, suddenly the history's liberated them, it powers them, because now they haven't got to worry about the history. They've made their own big piece. The six is their own big piece, and now, you can think about the history more. The history now boosts every one part of everything.
No, I didn't think about six, to be honest, before the game. That's true.
No.
No, it was just the one.
One, yeah.
Absolutely. And I have no idea what it really makes with you when you win something. It feels really good, and it helps you realize that obviously special things are possible. I think we played against Madrid better than we played against Tottenham, but the one game we lost, the other game we won. So that was something we had to learn as well. So it's not about the world best performance each and every day. You have to be competitive. You have to be in the challenge, really in the challenge every day. And then you have a good chance with the quality we have, with a good organization, with discipline, good preparation, and then we have a proper chance. And that's what we made sure. That's what we want to make sure in the future. Because this thing is not, I've said it a couple of times, this team is not a finished article. That's how it is. This year ended with the Champions League final last year, and then started with the English Super Cup, which the game we lost. But a very good game in the last 50.
Great game, really good game.
Nobody thinks about it anymore. So early in the season, this game, 6 subs possible. We changed that, not sure, 3 or 4 in once in the last couple of minutes. And so today we can say City was quite lucky that we went in extra time and stuff like this. So, or it was directly a penalty shoot.
Penalties direct, yeah.
So, and then European Super Cup, the other way around, average game, but winning it and in a spectacular manner. And then, the World Cup, a lot of talks about, we enjoyed it a lot when we were there, coming back after the World Cup and play a game like the game we played against Leicester. These are all really special moments, which I will never, ever forget. I didn't expect it, so means it's really deep in my memory, and I loved it.
Okay, so that is the exclusive interview between Neil Atkinson and Jürgen Klopp. Seems to have gone down well. If you fancy looking at that one, as I say, download the app, available on all platforms. You can have a go of it there. And you can watch the whole thing with the boss, and he always cheers everyone up. On that side, really, and on Jürgen Klopp cheering everyone up and generally being sound, I think is what a lot of people say about Jürgen Klopp. That is part of the culture he's created around Liverpool, isn't it? Around sort of being sound, being fair, stuff that comes out the academy as well all the time seems to be really good in terms of, you hear various players saying, even though I left, I still get calls off people from the academy, people willing to help and things like that. And I think that always gives you like a bit of a glow about, the general vibe of the club. That hasn't always been the case, of course. In the last 24 hours or so, there's been a story which I think you could file under being sound, really. I think in that Lallana's being told that he can have a sort of mini contract extension, because there was obviously this uncertainty around his contract was up. Obviously, he was due to leave. He was linked with Leicester and various other clubs. Now it seems that they're saying, well, we'll give you a little short-term deal to take you to the end of this prolonged extended season, if you like, and that way he gets to be a part of the team, the squad, for the celebrations when we win number 19.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on your original point, it's quite interesting. Really, my dad went out and bought a car last week. It was a luxury purchase in this circumstance, and he went to a car dealership in Liverpool, and there was a lad who was working selling the car called Peter Eilmer. You might remember him. He was in the under-18s. I think he played a couple of games for the under-21s 6 or 7 years ago, and he left Liverpool and has sort of never went back into the game. Sort of at the time was injured and despondent about the way things had gone, and he's now working in a car dealership. And he was telling me, Dad, exactly that he left Liverpool before Jürgen Klopp had arrived at the club. But the club, certainly more recently, the last few years, has really made an effort to connect with the ex-players. And I think that I mean, it's a small, it's a player that very few people will have heard of, but similar with like Jordan Lucy, who he captained the under-21s, and I mean, you've been down to Marine before, Gareth. I know you're a massive Marine fan, and he played for Marine last season. Last summer, apparently, was struggling for a club, and bumped into Alex Inglethorpe in the gym. And Alex Inglethorpe said, "Look, come back and train and get yourself fit with the under-20, the under-23 team." And Lucy went back apparently and trained really well and got his confidence back. And I mean, okay, he ended up signing for the rest of the season with Marine, but it was an open invitation to stay as long as he wanted. He was there until October by the time he actually signed for Marine. So he's got his sort of appetite back for the game again. And I think these little things might go unnoticed, but they're important, aren't they? And that comes from the very top, really. I think that's all right. Jürgen Klopp is in control of everything at Liverpool. He has his fingerprints over everything that happens. Any big decision, small decision. But I think beyond that, when he gives people jobs to go and do, he trusts them to get on with it. It's not like he's all over them all the time. So the academy at the moment, is under the control of Alex Inglethorpe, and the communication between him and Klopp is excellent. So I'm told, and you can see that pathway between players training with the first team regularly now, and this ties into Lallana. I mean, he's got a great relationship with Lallana anyway. I mean, I think they would be able to have an honest conversation about where his future lies. I mean, it seems to me that he will be moving on in the next couple of months, but he used to live when he first moved to Liverpool, to Formby. Klopp's next door neighbour was Lallana. I remember his first. In his first season, I remember Lallana doing an interview with him, and he was saying that his son, when he was putting the rubbish out, he used to wave at Klopp, through the window, and quite funny. He couldn't have loved him that much because he moved out to Cheshire pretty soon. But yeah, they've got a really good relationship and a good understanding, and I think that I would have been surprised, put it that way, if Adam Lallana thought, actually, I'm off here. I don't want my title winners medal. To be fair, it's going to be a big moment in his career. He's 31. I think the club that he'll end up going to, it's fair to say, won't be in contention for titles. But he's been a frustrating time for him, hasn't it, as a Liverpool player? Because I think there's been games where he's really affected games, and then other games where he's sort of not at all. It reminds me a bit of Laddie Smeater in some ways. When he's really good, like you can see there's a brilliant player there, but then. He's not there often enough. His injury record's been certainly frustrating for him anyway. And
I mean, we're talking there about sort of, football can be quite cutthroat at times, and so it's nice when it's not almost. I know you, Sai, and you mentioned Marine a couple of times in this conversation already. You like footy across the spectrum, and you've written about it across the spectrum as well, all the way down to sort of, amateur Liverpool sides, right the way up to Liverpool FC in the Premier League. I just wondered what you'd made generally of, footy and the coronavirus crisis and how it's all unfolding each day. You mentioned before that there's still been plenty to write about and talk about as they try to work out how things, will be worked out, essentially. I mean, I was just watching Sky Sports before, I'm sure you were yourself, and they're talking about, they're still talking about how League One will unfold. You've got Tranmere putting a certain proposal across. You've got other chairmen and owners of other clubs proposing something else. There's the whole self-interest thing that we've seen all the way along. But, there's a concern as well, isn't there? I mean, and I know you're close to some of the people at Accrington and things like that. There's a concern that, clubs go to the wall as a consequence of all this.
Well, I think... I should probably plug another article on The Athletic. This morning, Amy Lawrence has interviewed Arsene Wenger, and he said the way he sees it is that, people are saying it's a big opportunity for change and reform in the league. But the reality is, I think all it's going to do is see the wealthiest clubs become wealthier, and the ones who are struggling continue to struggle even more, or potentially fall off the football map. I think there is that chance that could happen. I think there's been a big moral discussion about like sort of how football, should football be trying to return while obviously there's a lot of suffering going on in the world, and I can totally understand that. But there has to be a world beyond this pandemic, So football clubs, I mentioned before, there's I think what it really has done is expose the reality that there's a lot of money washing around football at the top end in terms of the people who own the football clubs, and I guess that what the players are being played. But if you take away certain elements of the structure of football, i.e., the capacity to go and play games, it can unravel pretty quickly, And I think that it was crucial that the football 6 weeks ago, it did seem like it was a long way back, but they had to try and find a way to ensure that football can return. And now I was speaking to some people at lower league clubs yesterday, and they were obviously, their concerns are when can football return for them? Because the longer this goes on, they've got bills to pay still. How do they pay bills when there's no money coming through the gates? What's really sort of interesting me is like sort of, I think it showed that I think that the Premier League and the Championship now are two separate, autonomous leagues within the Football League structure. Because below that, the biggest gap really is between the Championship and League One. I mean, I wrote about that a bit in January about, the same teams just keep on going up and down basically because the potential of moving from the Championship into the Premier League is so big that clubs are willing to break the bank. Like Wolves sort of, accrued massive debts when they got promoted because they knew that if they spent all that money and went up, that the money in the Premier League would justify all the spending that they've done. Now, if you go up from League One to League Two, from League One to the Championship, you've got to have a lot of money now to be able to compete in that league. It's different below, in the leagues below. A lot of non-league clubs were able to, or non-league divisions were able to reach a decision about their futures quicker mainly because the players aren't contracted at that level. So, not many players are contracted at that level. So it meant that that's their biggest outgoing, basically, player contracts. They don't have, their non-league club's existence, totally rely between what happens between 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, usually. Not much beyond that. So they could make that decision. They mentioned Marine, they essentially decided to mothball the club until further notice. No one's getting paid. So the club could be actually come out of this in a better state because hasn't got much debt. Now, I don't think it's got any debt, in fact. So they're going to be in quite a strong position to just operate as they traditionally would 30 years ago before money became a big issue even in non-league football. Whereas the clubs who have put players on contracts, there are other clubs in the Northwest who've got a lot of players on contracts who still have to fulfil those contracts, who've accrued, tens of thousands of pounds of debt in this period. That's not the case at Marine. So it's really exposed just how fragile the whole football map is, and I think there will be change. What form that will take on, I'm not sure. I think lower league football needs to have some clarity and some sort of hope that they can return to some sort of normality within this year. With people coming through the door, if they reduce, the social distancing laws to 1 metre, I think it's possible to have football grounds inside stadiums potentially. But again, there's a lot for that to happen. It's not just, it's not football is not an island in this situation. It's part of the rest of the world, isn't it? So yeah, it's going to be an interesting period ahead, I think.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, there is some sort of steps towards normality. We obviously have got fixtures now which we can look forward to, and in general in the wider world there are steps towards what we would call normality. One of those for us is that our Anfield app shop is back open again. T-shirts back on sale. So if you want to look the business when you go out on the beach or in the park to celebrate Liverpool's 19th title, then go to theanfieldwrap.com and have a look at the shop. There's loads of discounts on there at the moment as well. And some of the lads at social distancing, measures and all the rest of it will be in next week to fulfill those orders and get them sent out. So have a look at that. Nice one, Si. I think that'll do us for Talking Reds this time around. Good to have you on. Good to have a natter. Check out Si's stuff at The Athletic. Just that's Talking Reds for today. But just stay with us for one more important message. All right, the Reds, thanks very much for watching another Anfield Wrap video. Thanks very much for supporting the Anfield Wrap all these years, and particularly during the current crisis that we're all going through. We'd like your support on one more thing, and that is your vote in the British Podcast Awards Listener's Choice. It's really easy to vote for the Anfield Wrap in this. Just go to the BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. You can search for the Anfield Wrap there, select the Anfield Wrap, make sure you verify your email. The email may well drop into your spam folder or your trash folder. Verify your vote. You've voted for the Anfield Wrap. You've done your bit. And hopefully, when the vote closes on July the 6th, we're going to win the thing this time, because we've come second 3 times now to BBC-backed podcasts. And this time, we want to win it, because you know what our mate Bill said about coming first and coming second. And this time, we've got a thirst for first. So do your bit, please. Nice one. Vote for us. Vote for the Anfield Wrap. Up the Reds.